Sam Altman is already the guy behind ChatGPT, which is enough power for one lifetime. But that was never the full story, because while everyone was busy asking the chatbot for recipes and life advice, Altman was also tied to World, the startup that wants to scan your eyes, prove you are human, and build a whole new trust layer for the AI internet. And once you start pulling that thread, the whole thing gets darker, bigger, and way stranger. Suddenly, you are not looking at random startups anymore. You are looking at a circle of billionaires building pieces of a future that feels less like tech innovation and more like somebody quietly assembling the infrastructure for a new civilization in the basement. And right in the middle of that circle is Peter Thiel, the Palantir co-founder, the guy whose name shows up whenever Silicon Valley starts getting suspiciously serious about power, control, data, and the kind of future that makes regular people squint. So let's go there. Let's open the door.
It's always fun to see a project go from an idea to reality. It usually doesn't work, and you start these things knowing it probably won't, but when it really starts to, that's exciting no matter what.
World is where the story starts. It was founded in 2019 by Sam Altman, Alex Blania, and Max Novenstern, and the pitch sounds simple until you actually say it out loud. In a world full of bots, fake accounts, AI agents, and digital impersonation, how do you prove you are a real human? Their answer is the Orb, a biometric device that scans your iris and creates a world ID. Basically, the internet's new bouncer is a glowing metal eyeball. That sounds wild because it is wild, but it also makes sense in a world where AI can fake almost everything except the weirdness of being alive. Public reporting has put World's funding well above the $100 million mark, with one round reported at $115 million and later coverage placing total funding around the $240 million range and valuation around $2.5 billion. The company has also moved from pure crypto identity hype into something much broader: tools for identity, verification, and online trust. That is the real play, not a token, not just a wallet. Infrastructure, the kind of layer that sits underneath the internet and decides who counts as real, which is exactly the sort of thing that sounds futuristic until you remember that being scanned by a machine is now considered a normal Thursday. Then comes Praxis, and this one feels like someone took a startup, a philosophy thesis, and a map of the world, threw them into a blender, and hit Generate Nation. Praxis was founded by Dryden Brown and Charlie Callanan as a network state project, a digital-first community that wants to become a physical city. Not an app, not a platform, a city. The big idea is to build a high-tech, self-governing place that starts online and eventually becomes a real-world metropolis with its own economic and regulatory system. Reports say Praxis has secured about $525 million in milestone-based financing, with a major $500 million drawdown facility tied to Gem Digital, and it has been scouting locations large enough for something like 10,000 residents. The investor side is where it gets even more interesting. The broader network state world around Praxis has been linked in reporting to names like Peter Thiel's ecosystem, Sam Altman's Apollo projects, and venture circles that love the phrase special economic zone almost as much as they love capital appreciation. This is not normal startup behavior. Normal startups build software. Praxis wants to build the place where people live, work, vote, and maybe eventually argue about parking permits. Somewhere in a whiteboard room, somebody looked at governance and said, "We can disrupt this." California Forever is the same dream, but with actual dirt under its nails. This one is real estate with a futuristic ego. Founded by John Ceramic, California Forever says it has bought nearly 70,000 acres in Solano County, California, and raised more than $1 billion to make the project happen. That is not, we have a concept. That is, we already own the ground. The plan is to build a brand new walkable city from scratch, dense, sustainable, designed for housing, industry, and infrastructure instead of endless suburban sprawl. The project has drawn backing from a who's who of Silicon Valley money: Marc Andreessen, Laurene Powell Jobs, Reid Hoffman, Michael Moritz, Patrick and John Collison, Chris Dixon, and other heavy hitters from the tech and venture world. And unlike the dreamy online-first energy of Praxis,
back to what the Bay Area and Northern California used to do back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, when it was the center for high-tech manufacturing in America.
This new city will be entirely self-funded and sustainable.
The innovation engine that we have in Northern California is really special, and the fact that we are throttling it by not building enough housing is just crazy.
Then there is Enhanced Games, which is where the script takes a left turn into what if the Olympics stopped pretending? Founded by Aaron D'Souza, this startup wants to create a sports competition where performance-enhancing drugs are allowed openly. Just a new kind of athletic event built around enhancement rather than denial. And yes, Peter Thiel is in the mix here too, which is not a coincidence because Thiel has always been drawn to projects that sit at the edge of convention and straight-up social discomfort. The project also drew backing from the Winklevoss twins' Winklevoss Capital. Yes, the same twins from the social network, the ones who became so famous for being part of Facebook's origin story that Hollywood basically made them a personality trait.
We have an idea we want to talk to you about. You got a minute?
You guys look like you spent some time at the gym.
More recent reporting also tied in 1789 Capital, Donald Trump Jr.'s venture firm, and other well-known investors. Public reporting put the SPAC valuation around $1.2 billion. The pitch is that this is about human performance, medical autonomy, and pushing limits. Altos Labs is quieter, but the ambition is enormous. This is the longevity company that wants to restore cell health and resilience, which is biotech for, what if aging is not the final boss after all? The company launched with around $3 billion in funding, an absurd number that instantly made it one of the most heavily backed biotech startups in the world. Public reporting has tied Altos to Jeff Bezos and Yuri Milner, with additional support from major venture and science-heavy investors. Altos is not selling lifestyle optimization or a glossy wellness app with a moon logo. It is going after the fundamental mechanics of aging at the cellular level. That means looking at how cells lose function, how damage accumulates, and whether those processes can be slowed or reversed. The company is led by Hal Barron, and the founding circle has included major scientific names like Rick Klausner and Hans Bishop. This is not a feel younger project. This is a can we rewrite the biology of time project. And when billionaires start asking that question, you know they are not thinking in annual reports. They are thinking in decades, maybe centuries, and possibly a little too much about immortality.
Could you soon be able to design your own baby? Now, I know sci-fi nerds like me are thinking, wow, this is starting to feel really Gattaca, but the news broke recently that Sam Altman has invested in a new startup that aims to edit the genes inside the embryo with the goal of preventing genetic diseases, and he's in good company. Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, has also put money into the startup, which is called Preventive.
Preventive takes that biological ambition and pushes it into a place where everyone suddenly starts speaking in lower voices. Founded by Lucas Harrington, Preventive is focused on heritable genome editing, which means editing embryos before birth to prevent severe genetic diseases from being passed on. In plain English, instead of treating a disease after a child is born, the startup wants to change the starting code itself. Public reporting says the company has raised about $30 million, with backing from Sam Altman and Brian Armstrong. And that backing matters because it shows this is not just a scientist's dream. It is also a capital-backed bet from some of the most influential names in tech. The science is obviously seductive. Nobody wants inherited disease. Preventive sits right in that danger zone, the kind where every sentence sounds noble until you realize it could become deeply controversial very fast. And yes, reports suggest the team has looked at more flexible regulatory environments. Nobody wants avoidable suffering, but the ethical and legal questions are huge. Where is the line between prevention and redesign, between medicine and enhancement, between helping and deciding what a future human should be?